Hello and welcome to Definitely Not a Mimic, your D&D and TTRPG podcast. I'm Jacob Crowe,
I am Zill from the Twisted Pint Tavern.
and on today's episode, we'll be talking about Unity, Dark and Darker, and other fantasy-related topics. And we are joined by Zill's own brother Will and friend of the show, Critcal Kunic.
Hola.
We haven't
Beautiful.
had Kunic on here in quite a bit, doing the D&D, TTRPG related stuff. But you've been working on your own project.
Yes. Well, actually, two different projects that you're aware about, and I've only publicly announced one of them.
Would you like to tell some of the fine folks about your projects?
Sure. So I've stepped away from the. I guess this will be my official announcement. Fuck it.
Let's go.
I don't know if you guys are censoring any of this or whatever, but
No, you're good.
I'm
Light
stepping.
censoring.
Yeah. I'm stepping away from the horror story genre on YouTube. I don't enjoy it. I don't need YouTube to financially be stable. So it's YouTube for me was strictly like a fun thing to do. And it just, those are not fun to do anymore. They were fun for a little bit, but not anymore. So I am cooking something up that'll be a little bit of a departure for my channel, but will still be grounded in the tabletop community. And as a whole, tabletop as a whole. Whether it's like, if I wanted to do a video on Baldur's Gate 3, well, that has D&D 5e as a backend, so 100% related.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little different than what I'm used to, what the people on my channel are used to watching. But I think it's gonna be educational, entertaining, and when you come out of it, you're gonna have learned something interesting about the type of games that we all love to play. But it's not ready yet. I'm going to be shooting for a late year, probably somewhere late November, December, sometime around there to release the first video. And unlike what I would do before where I'd stick to a schedule, I'm just going to be, as I come up with videos and as I put them together, they're going to be just sort of thrown out there at random. There's not going to be any rhyme nor reason as to why they're going out, other than that I'm done with the video and I want it out now. So yeah, that's one of the things I've been working on. And just like as a teaser about this first video, it's covering something that everyone who is engrossed with Dungeons and Dragons is aware about or has heard about, but maybe has not looked into the history of. And
And what might that be?
I'm not talking.
Oh,
lips
yeah.
are sealed.
Spoilers.
Lips are sealed.
What about the sneak peek?
That is the sneak peek. That's all you're getting.
Damn. I want to know now.
Well, we have a few months to brew on it before it's released, right, Kunic?
Yeah. Oh.
Yep. I'm the reason for the delay as well is not just because I'm wanting to put it out that late. I mean, Crow, you've seen the teasers I put together last month.
Oh, yes.
Spoiler, we have a little, Discord for all of Dice Goblins, and I kind of threw them in there as I was working on it for feedback. But I'm going to be moving some of them in the next month or two. And so I don't want to like rush to get it out before then. I want to make sure that it's a good final project or product, that has no errors, that I've done my good research for. So just taking my time with this first one, hopefully the second video, because I've got like 10 videos lined up after it of topics I want to cover, and I've been slowly researching them. So hopefully the next one after that doesn't take quite as long to put together. But I want to make sure that the first one I do is spot on, accurate, and you can't Linus Tech Tips me. That's what I want to accomplish. You can't call me out of this bullshit.
Good.
I think that makes sense. Like for any creativity, any creative thing you're producing, but especially the first one, it just makes sense to give yourself as much time as you need to fully flesh it out and find the rhythm and what it is that you really want that to be before you mold others off of it.
Yeah. And I'll throw
and also I was gonna say, and also, as a creator, when you get your first thing out, you have that first file, that first project as a template, and obviously you want to put a lot of work into the future stuff moving forward, but that first one is almost always what takes so long because you're doing everything from scratch. After that, you can go back as a basis and use the stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I'm also learning a new editor for this one. In the past, I've used Final Cut Pro for my NLE. And I'm switching over to DaVinci Resolve, so it's a little bit of a different workflow that I'm used to figure out.
I've heard about DaVinci Resolve. I've never used it myself personally. Would you say do you prefer one over the other, or is this more like just like that there are certain tools on this one that you want to be able to use.
So on the off chance that a professional video editor for like a movie or whatever is watching this, cover your ears. I much prefer Final Cut Pro. I think it is a much easier tool to work with as a YouTuber. It has all of the sort of quick shortcuts you'd expect. It doesn't bullshit around with your time. It just works. It's maybe not as good for like color work, but for the kind of stuff we do, that's not an issue. And it has far better support for third-party plugins. DaVinci, its one advantage is that it works on Linux, and that's what my main operating system is at the moment. So,
right, Linux user.
So
that'll do it.
So it was between DaVinci Resolve and another tool called Kdenlive. I love Kdenlive. It can't do some cool effects. It really does simple cutting that you would have expected in like the 80s. It doesn't do anything much more advanced than that. So for me, because my editing machine is now on my Linux machine, it has to be DaVinci Resolve. But I might move back over to Final Cut when I move. I've got an M1 MacBook Pro Max, like the top of the line from like 2 years ago. So there's no reason for me not to use it. I just have it sort of away in storage at the moment. So I'll probably switch back, but it's been a learning experience. I would say if you're stuck between like Sony Vegas, Adobe Premiere, or DaVinci Resolve, I think there's legitimately no reason not to use DaVinci Resolve. First off, Sony Vegas is shit. Second off,
I gotta jump on the Sony Vegas trash train for a second. I was using Sony Vegas exclusively for so long, and it would take so long to export videos, and things would always be bugging out. And I finally made the jump to Premiere because I had a client who required me to work in Premiere. And I tell you, day one, I finish a video and I go to export it, and it takes 20 minutes to export. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
where did that come from?
Back when you used to use Vegas, you'd like finish editing a video and get it exporting and be like, all right, cool, when's it going to be up? And you're like, I don't know, it says 12 hours to export. So
it was ridiculous.
Sleep on it, and we'll see if it actually completes and doesn't hit a failure 60% through and force me to do the whole damn thing all over again.
And I thought it could just be my computer or something, because not everybody was having super long exports, but apparently long exports was a thing. But on the same exact computer, Premiere Pro had a 20-minute export. So
if you want me to blow your mind, a few years ago, I experimented with doing a 3D like live action version of myself in front of a green screen.
Those were such good videos. Underrated videos, I might say.
Those videos took me 20 seconds to export.
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
That is the power of Final Cut Pro, because what Final Cut Pro does is on the newer Macs, they have a chip built onto the CPU specifically for encoding video, and it utilizes that to its fullest. If you go back and look at those videos, you're like, there's like 20 layers of effects going on, all this cool shit that I was doing that people told me was cringe, it didn't enjoy. So I stopped doing it, but the videos were like instantaneous on the export. It was nuts. DaVinci doesn't do that, at least on my hardware. Maybe if you have NVIDIA as a GPU, but I'm on AMD, it does it. But yeah, like I've never seen video exports as fast as what Final Cut Pro 10 does.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm still upset that those videos didn't catch on, because they were so well done. Like, I feel
anybody listening to the podcast, go check out Kunic's green screen videos.
No, go check out my April Fool's video from 2021. That was much more entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Where I cooked a kobold.
And also bookmark the non-existent link for his future stuff that he's working on.
Yeah, I don't. Well, actually, I do have a future link for not the videos, but the other thing I'll talk about. But back real fast. Sony Vegas shit. Final Cut Pro, or not Final Cut. Final Cut Pro is in the same bucket as DaVinci, but Premiere, that's like what, $30 a month. You take you can't buy a license.
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's $30 a month. Guess what?
Well, technically, I think you can buy licenses to individual Adobe products, but you do not get forward updates or something like that.
That's bullshit.
And it's still expensive as hell.
That's bullshit. So if you are an independent like producer, like an indie developer, and you're watching this video, let me tell you what you should do instead. Either use DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro. They both cost $300 for a lifetime license of future updates. But the advantage of DaVinci is that there's a free version that you don't have to do that with. Yeah, it's limited. You can't do all the fancy effects, and you're limited to like 1080p, but it's free. And then if you really like it, you can pay $300 in upgrade. As for Final Cut, or as for Photoshop or like Illustrator or InDesign, if you need those, $100 gets you Affinity Suite. It's basically as good for like 99% of the users out there. So for $400, you have a full sort of production suite of for video and your thumbnails and all that. Now, the big thing is it doesn't cover audio. Mac has that cover with Pro Tools. You can, I think it's like another $300 license, and you get the Pro Tools version of what Apple does for audio.
I mean, but you got Audacity and Levelator for the entry level stuff on that anyway.
Yeah,
I use
you've got
Descript
those
too.
Yeah,
Descript's also pretty good.
the only thing you might be missing is if you're doing any kind of fancy effects in like After Effects. And in which case, I think the only good alternative to that is Apple Motion, and it's not even like a great alternative. Though DaVinci does have a section of DaVinci's like an all-in-one thing. It's got like a video editor, audio editor, color works, and it also has its own version of like After Effects built in. I've not really utilized it, but that might be a good alternative to After Effects as well. But yeah, there's no reason to pay Adobe's exorbitant prices for that software if you're just getting into it. There's really good free alternatives. I mean, if we're just talking about super free, DaVinci Resolve, Krita for photo editing and thumbnails, and what is it called? There's a vector editor as well. I forget the name of it, but it's an Illustrator equivalent, and then Audacity for audio. Like you've got all these options. There's no reason to drop money on them.
So for any aspiring YouTubers looking to follow in the footsteps,
you've got Kunic's Guide.
Yeah, this is Kunic's Guide. Honestly, like this is advice even I need to take because I've been using a lot of shittier programs that I really shouldn't be using. Would you call it Krita for like thumbnails and stuff? I need to use that shit. Like I've been using like paint.net to make thumbnails, and like
it's a lot closer to Photoshop.
Yeah.
I've got the full Adobe suite, but it's a little bit of a loophole because, you know, my buddy and I share a student account because they let you have 2 downloads, and he would use my tech sometimes. So like with that, how can you say no? But as soon as Adobe jumps, you know, student account gone, jumps back up to hundreds of dollars, it's like, I don't know if it's worth sticking with it. It might be, depending on what all I got going on, but
yeah, there's really good free options. And then I would say again for like 99% of YouTube creators, because you guys aren't doing, you know, let's be real, you're not doing like top of the line production stuff.
No, not really.
You buy,
hey, whoa.
Okay, get back to me when you have like hundreds of reels of B-roll. Okay. Anyways, sorry, my background, just so everyone is aware, I went to college for video production, so I have like an instilled background in me as to the proper way of doing all this shit. I just never followed it. But
I can completely understand that part.
Yeah.
I was a actor and film student myself, and so I can, I did a couple of 48-hour film competitions, and it's one of those things of, I know the right way to do this, but when you have 48 hours to write, film, edit, all of it, you don't do it the fucking right way. There's just not time.
And that's YouTube. That's basically what you're doing for YouTube every week or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but especially with our upload schedule, right? Like every week, every 2 weeks. Yeah, that's insane.
For most people, or every day in the case of some. But yeah, so like on the cheap end, there's a lot of open source software, and then there's DaVinci Resolve. On the median end, DaVinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro, and then I would really heartily recommend the Affinity Suite. It's like every time they release a new version, it's $100, but they've only ever done that once. And the last Affinity version 1 lasted like 7 years before you had to buy Affinity version 2. And they gave you like a 50% discount. So, and it's like 99% of the way there for anything in the photo side of what Adobe offers. So for like $400, you're set for like the next 5 years, versus paying a continual monthly subscription.
Yeah, no, that's definitely got benefits to it.
Yeah.
On the note of subscriptions and purchases, how are we feeling about that Unity game dev situation?
Yeah, the spicy top. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to invite Critcal Kunic onto this one is you have a very vested interest when it comes to the Unity situation. Yeah. You've been using it since you told me about 2008, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2008. I actually own a professional license to Unity 3.5, which is super old nowadays, because they started labeling them by years, like in 2017. So 3.5 is like 2010. I own the professional license to it though, and Unity blew up because of their indie license. The original, it's called the professional version now, but the indie version that they released in 2008, that's what I started on. And it blew up because anyone could just download this 3D engine. Yeah, the free version back they didn't have post-processing effects, but doesn't fucking matter. You're in a full-on 3D engine that's easy to learn.
Sure.
And so they really captured the mobile market. Like 50% of all mobile games right now are Unity.
Genshin Impact is too, isn't it?
That's actually a point we'll get into, because that's one of the decision-making things behind their change.
Yeah, Genshin Impact is one. Their Honkai Star Rail that I've been addicted to is one. So like it's got a lot of high-end people like that. Like obviously those are the two of the most profitable games in the world right now are using it. A lot of indie games on Steam use it. The Slay the Spire guys were making their next game in Unity, and they flat out
I love
said,
that game.
yeah, they flat out said that if this goes through, they're gonna just scrap 2 years of work and move to another engine.
Start over.
The Cult of the Lamb, Cult of the Lamb is apparently gonna pull their game from Steam on the new year on the dot. So if you want it, you should probably buy it now.
Also, really good game.
Yeah, so just a quick summary for everyone, sort of not in the know as to what's going on. Yeah, Unity released a new pricing structure, and I don't remember it all off the top of my head, but I remember a good chunk of it. And the way that it worked was your game, if it had to hit both of these two goals on the freebie version of it. It had to make $200,000 in revenue. And I know I'm a stickler for this, and Crow, you know it off after the Wizards to the Coast bullshit. It's not profit, revenue. 200,000 in revenue, and
which is a big difference.
It's a big difference because on a profit side, you're making currently about 40% of whatever your revenue is, because everything else is going to Steam, it's going to taxes, it's going to just a bunch of other little places. If you have a publisher, they're taking a cut. So, 40% of that is basically what you're walking away from on the good end, maybe even less than that. So it has to hit both of those. It has to hit that goal, and it has to have 200,000 lifetime downloads. So 200,000 lifetime downloads, 200,000 in revenue for the past 12 months. If it hits both of those, it now enters the new bullshit tier. And the bullshit tier is every future download of your game after both of those two things have been hit, Unity will charge you 20 cents per install. Doesn't matter. Like they're tracking these games now. There's telemetry in the games that are reporting back to Unity. That's bad in and of itself. But B, what if you only sell your game on Steam? And because Steam metrics are very spot on, how many times your game has been downloaded, but Unity comes along and says, no, your game has been downloaded twice that. Well, you can tell them it's because of piracy, but you have to defend that to the guys that now are going to be making money off of those downloads for the 20 cents.
Well,
now there's a vested interest, right?
Yeah, it's a vested interest on their end.
It ends
and
up
there's so many ways. Go ahead. Oh, you first.
I saw something where it says that it ends up coming out to, on the average range for these indie developers that are releasing their games, it ends up coming to around 15% of any of the revenue that they're taking in that's going to Unity now. And like you're saying, Steam's already got 30%. So you're looking at 45% between those two sources alone. It's just, how are you supposed to have any money to keep making games?
Yeah, that's not profit.
No,
again, that's still just revenue. So you have like 45% gone before you even take into account development fees and other stuff.
I don't know how these big companies work. I'm sure they have a lot better profit margins than what I'm used to, but in small businesses that I've worked in and small time stuff like that, I know 50% profit margins is good. That's what you're aiming for. So if that applies over to the gaming industry, then they're looking at 45% being taken purely by Steam and Unity. I'm sure there's more charges going into it as well. They literally could be losing money through using these.
They can. I got a good example of that, but let me go into. Actually, there was someone else. Zell, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, I was just going to say the biggest problem about this. Another thing to consider is the fact that it's what's really going to hurt the smaller devs and such is that this is retroactive. Oh yeah, it doesn't. It's not just if your game's already on the market, you're not sworn by this deal anymore. Any game that has been released and is available for download when this change happens. I'm looking at a thing right now. It says we will take a look at the game's lifetime installs to determine eligibility for the runtime fee. Then we bill the runtime fee based on all new installs. So basically, they use everything up until now to determine if you've crossed the threshold or not.
Yep.
And then if you have, everything moving forward, you're charged for. And So not only is that the problem that these smaller devs now have to look at that if they fall into that threshold, which again, maybe most of them don't, maybe some of them don't, but the ones that do could get screwed by this. And they still have to pay their subscription to Unity for using the service.
Oh yeah.
If that's only if you're using the Pro one, and I was actually about to get into that. So good segue.
Okay.
So
yeah.
the Pro one, it's about
Segue.
it's about $2,500 a year per seat license. So if you have a development team of 4 people, you're paying about $10,000 for that on a per year basis. What that does for you is it raises those thresholds to 1 million and 1 million. So you need to make $1 million in revenue, and you need to have 1 million total downloads for the lifetime. Again, that's going to probably count pirated games. I don't know how. If Unity can fight
multiple installs, if I get a new computer, it's another install.
Yeah, in that case, not a reinstall. They have clarified it's not a reinstall. But let's say you're someone like me. I've got a Mac, I've got a PC, and I've got a Steam Deck. I usually install games on all 3 of those. If I install the same game on all 3 of them, that's 3 installs. That's now 60 cents we're charging you because you have to pay Unity for that.
And now multiply that by like 10,000 other yous that are also doing this.
Well, and you got to think too about, a lot of the games that people are producing on Unity, like, we said Genshin earlier, that's a free-to-play game. So you've got, there's no money that's coming in to the company that releases it for a download. On install. And so you've got all these people that might install it, then find out their PC can't handle it, or install it, then they hate it, or just install it and never spend a cent in the game. And that there's never money going to the developers' pockets, but there's always money going to Unity's pockets.
Now it is worth noting that on that professional license that you're paying yearly for, the amount that you're paying is a little bit different. So for the first 100,000 downloads, it's like 17 cents instead of 20, and then it goes down to 2 cents if you cross 1 million or 1 million downloads. Now there was a developer that posted that he would actually owe Unity 108% of their revenue because of how they make money. They made a bunch of they make kids apps on the phone, and they have something like 110 million downloads, but only $1 million in revenue. And so you work it out, they've hit both those thresholds.
Kids.
Yeah, it's because they don't want to push ads to kids. So they calculated it, and if they were on Unity's new plan, they would owe 108% of their revenue to Unity for the stupid new thing that they're doing.
And that's revenue. That's still not even profits.
Yeah, it's like they would go bankrupt.
That's
immediately.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
And what's also come out from this is that Unity is quietly waiving this whole structure if you use Unity's ad service in your game.
How chivalrous.
See, there it comes out.
To let that be an option.
Lose all your money to us or use our ad system.
I mean, this has kind of been like the kind of philosophy they've had going for a while, though, right? I remember reading an article talking about John Riccitello, the Unity CEO, who was talking shit about game developers who don't prioritize monetization. Like, this is already, I feel like the pathway has already been made, right?
For anyone that's listening and doesn't understand this shithead, this is the same guy who ran EA in like 2011 to 2015, somewhere on there. The years were every single year. Yeah, the years where every single year EA was rated worst gaming company year after year. It was all when he was in charge. This is the same shithead that wanted to charge Battlefield players in game a quick little pop-up saying, "Hey, you're out of ammo. You want to pay real money to refill your ammo in game?"
Oh god.
Oh my god.
He wanted to do that. He pushed it in 2011.
That is a dystopian fucking nightmare. Could you imagine?
Me and the boys out there in Call of Duty Zombies. You run out. Would you like to buy a max ammo? $4.99.
Oh, your scope. It's kind of low tier.
That's why they took out dog rounds.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine you're quick scoping in COD. Your scope breaks. And the only way to fix it is if you buy with real money a new scope. Oh, looks like your KDR is gonna drop. They're not gonna keep you in those competitive teams anymore, man.
Yeah. Or imagine you scope in to shoot someone, but it's like off just a little bit and you miss. Oh, if you had this scope, you wouldn't have missed them.
Yeah.
Crosshair adjustment, 99 cents. Or the best of the best would be like, enemy nuke inbound. They get the winning kill streak, and it's like, but you can pay $9.99 to cancel that and kick that person from the lobby. Go that far. Anyway, rant about that aside. This is the same guy that wanted to do that. Yep. That's running his mouth about the Unity stuff.
Yeah, and it's the guy who makes Gary's mod, Gary Newman makes Gary's mod,
Mhm.
Rust, Face Punch. They put out a post earlier today, and what their community did, because their communities are full of like assholes as well. I mean, you guys know Rust. Rust
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
assholes. So let's be real. So, within a day of this announcement, within one day, their community had made multiple versions, a bunch of different efforts across this one community to uninstall and reinstall Rust multiple times over. On top of that, it was spoofing hardware info. So according to Unity servers, it looked like a
It
whole bunch
was
of unique
fresh installs.
installations.
That's
Well,
insane.
that's the thing is these things are so easy to spoof. I mean, I'm looking
Mhm.
to tie this into the piracy thing that we were talking about a little bit too. In their FAQ, does the Unity runtime fee apply to pirated copies of games? No, they don't say yes or no to
Nope.
this.
They
Their
said they're gonna work with you.
exact answer is, yeah, we are happy to work with any developer who has been the victim of piracy so that they are not unfairly hurt by unwanted
In other
installs.
words, they don't know.
They don't know. How the hell are you going to track that? Because if people can do legitimate reinstalls by just on Steam by just spoofing data, then you can't track that. You can't track piracy.
People already do shit like review bombing. Imagine how insane it could be if you could literally bankrupt a company that you don't
Yeah.
like for things that they do by doing
Think
this.
about if Gollum used Unity after it came out.
yeah, they would be gone, dude. They would be. So many people would just go.
Okay,
and
deserved though.
download
Okay,
spam.
that was
Deserved.
Yes,
Really
but
deserved, but they'd be gone.
yeah. I feel bad for the developers, but also it would be really funny. But like,
Yeah.
like they don't deserve that though. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
regardless,
Lord of
though,
Ring
I mean,
Gollum was not a good game.
Lord of Ring. That's my favorite part about it. Is it wasn't even Lord of the Rings.
Lord of Ring.
In one of their communications.
God, there's so many memes about that fucking game. I love it.
But
yeah, you could back to you, Kunic.
Sorry.
But yeah, just had to jump in with that. It's just they don't even know how they're gonna stop this shit from happening.
they have no clue. And I'm sorry, I know I'm like speaking a whole bunch here. I've
Oh,
invested.
you're
interest
the
in this.
expert on this because you're using Unity.
Yeah. So two other points about it. One, the community has come up with a loophole for this bullshit. They went back into the Wayback Machine and archive.org. They found the license that everyone agreed to for the 2022 version of Unity.
Which was removed, right?
It was removed with this one, but they found the license that everyone agreed to when they originally used it, as well as the 2021 long-term release of it, the LTE. In that license, it specifically said that it can't be changed unless both parties agree to an adjustment to the licensing agreement.
Uh-huh.
So effectively what the community has done is saying, if you're using a version earlier than 2022 or 2022.x or earlier, or an LTE that's 2021 .x or earlier, and that's what I use in my games right now is 2021. If you're using one of those two versions, Unity can't change the script on you. You agree to this terms of service that said that you both have to agree to this. I don't agree to this, so I shouldn't be applicable to the new plan because I don't agree to it.
But they're going to guaranteed send you an update or something. We've updated the terms here. Please read and accept. And so many people are just going to do it.
That's
without
not how
reading and knowing.
It's not how the Unity engine works. It only prompts you on the initial install of it.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's not even going to be like an email. We've updated your details kind of thing.
They can do that all they want. According to when you install the 2021 LTE, which you can still do right now, when you install it, the terms and conditions are what they were back then. So they can update it now all they want. I've got 2021 LTE installed. My terms and service, according to when I installed it, what it said was that they can't change it unless I agree to a change to this as well.
Right. That's what I mean is they can send, but if they send the emails or something trying to get people on that loophole, basically, if you're using that version of Unity, don't accept their new terms and conditions that they send you because that would be you agreeing to the change.
Yeah, well, they only ever send you those like on the initial install, so it's not like even when the engine updates, it doesn't prompt you for new terms and service. So you could just play willful ignorance if you wanted to. But what I will say is, despite all this bullshit, there's no reason to send death threats to the Unity office.
Yeah, that's something we wanted to get into.
Yeah, because they had to shut down today because there were death threats. Like, look, it probably wasn't a game developer, but I guarantee there are some game developers that are about to go bankrupt if this happens. And I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that.
This is something that does bother me when it comes to like the gamers' reaction when it
Yeah.
comes to this kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like where gamers will start targeting developers and going after the people inside the company who are just the workers, as opposed to the business people who are the ones actually making these decisions. Like I understand the anger, and it's very easy to just look at somebody on Twitter you can just be able to reach out to and just bitch to them and talk to them like they're the one who are causing this. But at the end of the day, it's like you got to bring it up to that guy. You got to bring it up to the businessman whose fucking account is going to be unfindable.
Yeah.
Like, you have to bring it up to there. And I know it's easier to just be able to find someone really, like, quickly who you can vent those frustrations to, but it won't change anything. It's just going to make
Now,
people who have nothing to do with
there
his
is-
lives worse.
There is the point of like, if, because you have to get the message out in some way, so you have to find somewhere to say it. So I get to that extent when people are like expressing their disinterest. You go on Twitter and you see a game development person or like someone working at a company mentions the game, and then people are like, oh, well, I really don't like this game in the comments because they're expressing that. There comes a point where you have to be able to get that out, but it should never get toxic. It should never get dangerous, and it should never put somebody's life like in the range of a threat. Like that is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, death threats are always unacceptable unless they're against CEOs. Then it's based.
On that point, though, I will say, like, I guarantee the majority of the people that work at Unity were not on board with this. In fact, we know that there's been a lot of resignations over it. We know that they actively fought against it, and you have a lot of ex-Unity employees right now that are going to Twitter. Formerly known as Twitter, X.
Yeah.
They're going there.
Artist formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. They're going there saying they expect more of their former colleagues to quit because they didn't sign up for this, and it's bullshit. I guarantee this was something that the CEO came in to do and basically pushed it through against all objections. And I guess thinks he's Elon Musk or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they just added an X somewhere into the Unity name down the line, but
it's in the code. It's in the hard code of the engine.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of ridiculous. And there's a deleted Twitter X post, this article talking about the death threats, that says that the team communicated extensively internally how horribly this would be received. They stressed simplicity and an extensive FAQ detailing all edge cases, which we got an extensive FAQ with a bunch of little drop downs, and yet it tells so little with so many words.
That's always the thing with a lot of these like corporate like PR these PR fucking disaster reliefs they try to make, right? Where it's like what is the phrase that's always used? We're listening and we're learning. I saw that in their statement, and it was like, oh my fucking god, this reads just like the kind of shit Activision Blizzard said when it came to the sexual harassment scandal. This reads like the kind of shit that was going on with EA. Like it's the same fucking script over and over again. It's so wild to me.
I think the companies have like a PDF folder that they all share.
Yeah,
like
they
email
have
it
to,
between
right?
the companies, and it's like script for when people are upset with a decision you make. Script for when there's a scandal at your company.
Script
and they
for
just
when you
copy paste.
accidentally went too hard on pay to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just all the copy paste stuff.
Tired of people getting mad at you for doing gotcha again. Read this script and just post it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the whole Unity thing is going to go through, because they have already said that they, at least to my knowledge, like there was this talks about they're already going back on some of this stuff, but not the important stuff.
Right, what did they say exactly? Do you happen to have the post?
I had something here.
Talk about the FAQ they put out.
They had they posted a statement. What was it, like 16 hours ago, I believe, as of recording, which would be 9/14, September 14th.
Unity statements. I've got 16 hours ago. Unity issues new statement over controversial. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so. I remember they posted something. No, it's probably just it's just that we want to acknowledge whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. We want to acknowledge the confusion and frustration we heard after we announced our new runtime fee policy. We'd like to clarify some of your top questions and concerns. Who is impacted by this price increase? Blah, 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 blah. It's just
I love how they
spiel.
say more than 90% of our customers won't be affected by this change, when that
I
is
call
very
bullshit.
much not the case, just based on the numbers they
it's-
presented.
Yeah, it can't be the case. More than 90% will not be affected by this change. Bro, you're looking to make money. You're telling me you're implementing a brutal thing that is only going to apply to 10% of people. Now,
Mhm.
sure, like that can happen, but we see your colors, the colors you're flying there. We know that your
Well,
goal here is to freaking min-max capitalism simulator. So you're not just doing something for 10% of your clientele.
And
No.
this is something that's funny too, because if they say like 90% of the customers won't be affected, this could be true up to the extent of the amount of people who download Unity just to make games for fun with their friends and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And in that
Right.
case,
And that's
obviously
what
it
I
won't be
mean.
affecting those people,
Yeah.
right?
They're skewing
But-
the numbers.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That skews the fucking numbers, because that 10% are those indie devs who are actually going to get out to make a profit, right?
Right. That's
So then
what
it's
I was
of
thinking.
course it'd be of course
When-
this is how the
When
numbers
you
would
look
like.
at what Unity's used for, like its whole purpose, the top 10% of moneymakers might be the only moneymakers.
The
on
only
entire
moneymakers,
platform.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, to put this into context as well, because you brought up a great point there, Crow. There's a thing in game development called game jams. I participate
yeah.
in them. I participate in them all the time. I think I've shared a few of them, and I actually won my first game jam this past weekend. So
They're
no
like
way.
little contests,
Yeah,
right?
they're where you have a certain limitation. Usually, there's a rule that's been set in place, and you have a certain time frame. This past one that I just did, you had to build a game in 3 hours. Not necessarily like
Oh wow.
not like you just have to make the game in 3 hours. You didn't have to build it. You didn't have to publish it. Just make the game in 3 hours and publish it after that. And the restriction for the game was you're the prey. So whatever
Mm.
you build, you are the prey of whatever is in that game. And so like that's just an example, but you know, like hundreds, if not thousands of games are published a week, usually using the Unity web version, but sometimes the Windows or Linux or Mac versions.
Mhm.
But they'll publish to the web, and you know that's 100% skewing the numbers because they said that those games count. One of their other statements basically said if those games somehow make money, they'll charge for them too.
Yeah.
If
Which
they- if
means
they hit
they're
that threshold.
considering them in their metrics.
Yeah, so they have to be. So yeah, that's 100%. I would wager of the official releases, it's probably closer to like 50% of the people that are actually putting their game out for
Yeah.
a profit on Steam or something to that extent.
At least I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
No,
that's the case, then yeah, like, I mean, it sounds like it's not going to affect a lot of people, but a lot of those people aren't trying to make money.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's
really-
the targeted group here that they're trying to affect is they're like almost all likely going to be affected.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
So
what we were talking about earlier with the 48-hour film competitions, like you were saying with these like little game competitions of
Mhm.
making the game in a short amount of time. If you say, oh yeah, well we're only gonna this effect is only gonna change for the top 10% of filmmakers in the United States. I bet you only the top 3% of filmmakers are actually making a penny off of what they're producing. You know,
Yeah.
it's an open market, and so it's skewing the numbers in a very schemy way. It's just money grabbing all around.
Like in a
It-
film perspective, right? That would be like, oh, it's not going to affect everybody, but it is going to affect every single movie that's going to be popping up in theaters.
Yeah,
Whether it's
exactly.
like, yeah. So then it's
gonna
like,
affect all
oh,
the big
it looks like it's affecting a lot of people actually. You know?
And the worst thing is, it's also like imagine if using the same analogy there, imagine if those small like $100,000, $200,000 budget indie films, they
Yeah,
were
like
getting
B-movie.
they were getting billed proportionally much more
Mhm.
of their revenue compared to the guys that are making $1 billion like your avatars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is exactly how Unity is doing it. The fact that it doesn't scale with the size, in fact, it actually gets you pay less the more people you
Yeah.
have installed it with your game.
it scales inversely.
Yeah.
Is one of the worst things about it. It is built to target the little guy more.
Oh yeah. Like if you're barely breaking even, you're gonna get fucked more.
I just don't get why they didn't steal what Unity or what Unreal does. Unreal's like on their indie version, you have to do 100 million in sales or 100 million revenue rather. I don't think there's an install limit, but there's the revenue, and then Unreal takes 5% or something like that of every game that you sell beyond that point. That way it scales where if your game's making a fuck ton of money, you pay them more, but your game's making a lot of money, so makes sense. The
when
fact,
when you're making less money,
Yeah.
you're only paying them off that
And
money.
it's only
So-
like 5%, right?
it's
That's
like
actually not that
5, 10,
bad.
it's 5 or 10% of the profit, not even of the revenue. It's like of the profit. It's really fair
Now,
to the developer.
something else to address here is the fact that 5% of something, 5% of a $60 game it's more than the 20 cents that Unity is looking for. So there could be the argument made of like, well, Unity's not even going to be taking any more than that. The difference here is one, it's based off of a much more realistic number. It's based off of a percentage instead of a flat fee. And it's based off of not penalizing you if you're releasing a free game for fun kind of thing.
So,
Mhm.
so since we're talking percentages, I just punched it into my calculator real quick, and it's 20 cents per download, correct?
Yes.
So, if you just barely break into it, you make $200,000 revenue, you have 200,000 downloads, and you get charged 20 cents per download, then it is a flat 20% that is being taken out. And
Yeah.
$40,000 that you're
It's
losing
assuming you
out
sell
of
for $1. Yeah.
out of 40,000 40,000 out of 200,000 that you're losing.
That's
And
only after the 200,000 though. So that would have to apply to say that extra 200,000 you took the 40,000 off of. That would be if they made 400,000.
Yeah, the first 200,000.
Well, the
well,
first
actually,
200,000, does it not
no,
apply to
I
the
don't
first
know.
200,000?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't
actually,
apply to the
because
first 200,000.
Okay. I guess that makes it better then, but it's still really low metrics for the indie game market. On the topic of price hikes in areas where they shouldn't be, though, have you guys seen any of the pay to progress stuff that's been coming up in the new Dark and Darker?
I've not been following it.
I've not. No.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
about that.
So I knew that we were talking about it a little bit, so I went to go do some research and found that there's been a little bit more updates, and since they had to, so for one, they got DMC aid. Is that right?
Yeah,
yeah.
there was a whole thing with that with the
Yeah,
legal
so
stuff and
they're
Nexon.
currently still in the legal battle with Nexon, and so they had to
The
relist.
case did end in the U.S.
It's still
though.
going on in Asia, where
Yeah.
in Asia,
Yeah.
Korea, where they're based out of. And so this case argues that they stole assets and moved over, left this company, stole the assets, and are creating the same game. And I mean, in all honesty, that is basically what happened. They're using Unity assets, Unity store assets. So
Unreal.
Or thank you, Unreal.
Yeah. Same
Talking
thing.
so much about Unity.
Yeah.
They're using Unreal store assets. So it's kind of hard to say, yeah, they're stealing them because they're available to everyone. But when it's pretty much the same basis of a game using the same assets, it's fair to say they're trying to take our idea. But regardless of how you feel on that, they relist the game on a different platform, and then immediately after start having, oh yeah, you can, we didn't realize that we're going to need to be bringing in so much more money as we're creating this game and as we're releasing this game. So we're trying to find a good balance of that. So here's these skin packs that you can buy, and here's these cool customization things you can buy. Oh, and also you can just pay to progress to the end of the storyline if you want to.
So it's not you have to pay to play the game, but you can pay to skip the storyline.
Yeah.
Is it storyline, or I didn't think there was a story? I thought it was
Not
like
even
a battle pass.
storyline, it's battle pass. Yeah.
Okay.
So
They have a battle pass? I thought they weren't going to do one.
When did that happen? I do see something here. This is a quote from them apparently. It realistically had to add microtransactions to Dark and Darker to help financially support the game's development.
Yeah, so it's just I didn't get the opportunity to dive too deep on what the microtransactions were, but I saw that there's some progression related ones in there.
Dark and Darker.
Interesting.
I'm gonna look this up. Yeah, I was coming into this like, oh, what's the update with Dark and Darker? I didn't think that they had gone the freaking Fortnite route.
So
on top of having to pay for the game.
So for two of the classes, that's what it is. So you have to progress through a bunch of challenges and do all this stuff to get a class. And there's two that are available that way, or you can just pay $15 flat to buy the classes.
They said on August 17th, if you look on their website, there's a blog post saying they're removing the class unlock system.
Are they?
They said that on August 17th. It was a blog on their website.
Oh, yep. I see it. I see it on Reddit.
So that must have been in response to that information.
Yeah, probably. Removing the class unlock. Yeah, here it is.
Okay, so for all the believers in chat for Dark and Darker, rejoice.
Yeah, rejoice.
Rejoice.
You just
When
heard
we-
about a scandal, and then we just disproved the scandal.
They are being bullied.
And that's how we do it. That's how we do it.
Yep,
we
let's
reveal
go.
the scandal and we solve it in the same episode.
The line is held.
Yep. Yeah, so it was just under a month ago.
And they're refunding
that-
players that purchased as well.
Yeah.
That's badass. Be more like Dark and Darker, aside
more like
from
Dark and
getting
Darker.
sued. Try not
I
to
mean,
get
there-
sued.
There is like a legitimate thing with that the case, but obviously it wasn't legitimate enough in the U.S. courts, and I think we're a little stricter than the Korean courts. I don't know, it could be the other way around. But like like a lot of the assets that they use, I'm using them in my game, and it's
No,
also
and
it's also a dungeon delver. So it's like
that's-
they're going to sue
That's
me.
exactly when you sent that the little teaser in our chat here. That's kind of one of the things that popped up in my head is you can't really say I don't know when you're making a dungeon delver game and you're using the Unreal Store assets. There's probably not very many mimic chests to choose from.
There's like 3 in the
Yeah.
Unity
Mhm.
store. There was 3, and 2 of them honestly look like trash. The only decent one is the one that's being used in Dark and Darker. And the
And
advantage to that
Pro
one as well
3
is
or
that
whatever.
Yeah. Well, it was the same one in that one, but it's and what's nice about the package that I got for this one is it has like 20 different styles of chests, and it has versions for if they're a mimic or if they're actual loot. So you'll never know as a player. So
That's
just
amazing.
it was like a brain dead. Like, yeah, of course I'm going to get this one. There's also
Yeah, totally.
a really nice gelatinous cube in there, which I'm surprised is not in Dark and Darker yet, but like there's like some really nice options in there, but they're the only ones. And if you want to have something that's akin to D&D, like there's only one really nice beholder looking one in all of the asset store.
Yeah,
And it's by the same guys doing this. So like it's bound to happen if you're wanting a more hardcore style and to have a more metal theme to it. Like there's only one real choice in the asset store.
One realistic D&D style type asset to choose from. Yeah.
I also just realized in this podcast we completely neglected to mention what Dark and Darker is, so I'm going to give a little rundown real quick.
I assumed everyone would know. Shame on me. My bad.
Yeah. So to any in the audience, I know this is a bit further in, but yeah, to anybody in the audience, we're talking about Dark and Darker, D&D, haha, get it? Which is a hardcore like fantasy dungeon crawler. It's a first-person one. It's like a battle royale, similar to Escape from Tarkov or what I've even played on my own streams, Hunt Showdown. It's pretty much like that, except D&D classes. You got your swords, you got your sorcery, you got all
Basically
your...
a full D&D rip.
Yeah, it's like a full D&D rip, but more so like it reminds me more of like old school D&D because of like
Mhm.
how hardcore it is, and also you could team up in groups or you could go solo if you're
Yeah.
insane.
You're going
It's
through these
definitely
dungeons.
Gygaxian D&D rip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. You're going through these dungeons trying to defeat them, and then out of the blue you find another adventuring party that runs out and kills you and takes your loot.
Yeah,
It's
They
got a
just jack your shit.
Thieves twist to Dungeons and Dragons.
Does that sound a little familiar to a certain recent thing, Alex?
Ah, shit.
Anyway, we recently did a dive back into some second edition stuff with one of our old buddies, and it just brings back all the old second edition tropes of you are not going to live this. You are not the hero here. Don't try, kid.
Yeah, you got to become the hero in old school D&D.
Yeah.
You really got to earn it. And then once you earn it, though, you do get really powerful, honestly.
You do. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Okay,
Mhm.
total tangent, but that's one thing that second edition does so much better than fifth, in my opinion, is like in fifth edition, everyone gets to level 11 or so, and then typically campaigns die off because those are the fun levels to get to. And then it's just the abilities don't stack for the levels after that.
Yeah.
The monsters
Well, and
either.
some of them do. It's so varied by class.
It is
too.
varied by class, but in second edition, man, when you got to level 17, whatever class you were, that was the most crazy powerful thing. You couldn't believe that the DM was saying, "Okay, you could do it." It was a big
like,
deal.
barbarians get like actual like hordes of barbarians they could like summon. Like that was
Yeah.
like one of the things. Like you can
Well, not
literally get
just
a
that.
legion of fucking barbarians.
It
to
was
answer
so
your
weird.
call.
They could only get to level 12 instead of level 20. But yeah, by level 12, you would have
Yeah.
your clan. You'd have like 40 barbarians that were level 4 to 6 that would come follow you and do anything with you.
Well, and fighters can get keeps and have people just naturally come to the keep to follow the great stories of the fighter, and they would die for you. And so you could have an entire army just like, okay, we got to wait 40 days for my army to regenerate, and then we can go take out this dragon.
Yeah, you just enter domain level play like at a certain point with those classes.
But that's stepping back away. Dark and Darker is definitely kind of an old school, a little bit harsher of a D&D vibe, but that's something that it has going for it, you know, like Escape from Tarkov, where the whole point of it is you are not going to live every time. It is, you are crawling through everything.
And that's why people hack.
And that's why people hack. But so that's what Dark and Darker is it's a D&D battle royale kind of version of that. Some dungeon crawling, some spells. One of my favorite clips that I ever saw was people losing their minds because they were trying to attack another party through a doorway, but they all had like big, tall weapons, and they could not land a hit on the other person because the weapons kept bouncing off the stone door up top.
I love the collision in that game. It is so well done.
I think my favorite thing in the game is you're dead. You've already been killed by someone. And you're like, okay, let me watch this person and see how they play. And then either seeing them get completely shit on by someone else, or you see them do something completely nuts that you're like, okay, I don't feel so bad now.
Yeah, like this was not my fault. This was not me. It's like when we play Sea of Thieves and it's like, man, I got destroyed by that other crew. What did I do wrong? And then you watch them go over to another ship and just like quadruple sword hit someone before the game's even process a tick.
Yeah, and it's like, oh wow, we lasted 30 seconds. We did pretty good.
We did pretty good against that group.
You don't feel as bad anymore. You're like, yeah, they were kind of badass. Like, I'll let them. I'll let them have it.
They got that one. They got that one.
Yeah.
I've
got 300 hours in Baldur's Gate. They've got 300 hours in Sea of Thieves. Understood.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, based on the what you were bringing up there about second edition, like it makes complete sense that Baldur's Gate only lets you go up to 12.
Yeah.
And then like you also have a lot of OSR games nowadays that are like, okay, the max level is 10. Or like you start out at level 0 with an adventuring party with the expectation that like they're all gonna die except for the one guy that becomes the hero out of that group. So there's like they play into that aspect a lot on the newer systems.
Sure.
No, there's a difference between them for sure, which is a topic for another podcast episode in itself, because we could really go into that one.
Oh yeah.
Before we, kind of get into closing remarks as we're pulling on the hour mark here, is there anything else that anyone has to say about our topics, like Dark and Darker and like the legal drama with that, where that's coming back from Kunic, diving into the Unity? Is there anything else we want to touch on there?
I've said a lot, but I've got one other thing to say.
Yeah,
go for it.
So the Unity aspect, going back to Unity, what my plan is for that, because I've used Unity for 15 years now. I'm going to complete my current game in Unity. I've already got a lot of work done into it, 3-4 months into it, which for me is a lot. I usually do shorter projects, so I'm going to complete it. I'm going to try to release it on Steam, and then I'm probably going to go do what most of the other Unity developers are doing, which is either going to Unreal or going to Godot. I'll probably go towards the Godot side because it's more of a Unity style, so I'm a bit more familiar with it. It'll have a bit of a learning curve, but the community for that has developed means to port all of your existing art assets over to that engine. So
it's a really easy transition.
That's
compared to Unreal. Yeah,
that's what I've seen is just that Godot's got like that seems to be the place to go if you're moving away from Unity.
If you're an indie developer, if you're a professional, Unreal, because Unreal has a better lighting engine and it has a better post-processing stack. It's got better things overall, but it's a lot more to get into. It's a lot more difficult because the language is C++ and Unity is C. So there's a little bit more intricacy to learn. But like if you're just an indie developer, Godot's the way because it's 100% free. There's never going to be licensing fees because the software itself is open source.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really good. And I could see a huge surge coming to like keeping that updated and getting new features and benefits to it with it being open source, because that kind of thing happens when when a paid version of something goes off the deep end and people are like, I can't pay for this anymore. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to support it, or I can't, or whatever. And there's an open source variant. That open source thing starts getting slammed with quality of life improvements and feature upgrades and all that, because
Yep.
now all these people who were super passionate about the one thing are coming to this, and it's everything they wanted in a sandbox, and they just have to build it up to be what the other thing was.
Yeah,
And so-
Godot's not quite there yet. It's missing its post-processing stack. You have to kind of do that
Mhm.
on your own.
Oof.
But I imagine if enough developers swap over to it, they'll just make open source packages, and they're like, hey,
Yep.
here's all the post-processing stuff you guys are wanting, ambient occlusion, bloom, and all that. Download it, have fun. I'm sure if the transition's great enough, something like that will happen.
Yeah, hopefully.
Good
Like
fun.
one can only hope. I would like to see a contender to Unity with Godot, especially because of all of this. And I know there's a lot of people. I think the developers for Cult of the Lamb were saying that even if they pull this back, that they're not going to want to go back to Unity. So
Yeah, I guess that's a question for you, Kunic. If Unity went back on this, if they said you're right, our bad, they pulled a Wizards of the Coast with the 1D&D stuff. or the
we
OVL.
won, you won. what was
Yep,
the
yep.
thing they said?
Something like our intentions were never to be sinister, and with this we've all become winners, or some garbage like that. So if
They
Unity
won,
pulled something
but
like
so
that,
did we.
yeah, that's what it was. If Unity repealed this, if they said we're not gonna do this, minus the totally out of touch remark about winning alongside with the people, would you continue to use Unity if they said they were not changing their pricing system?
If they fired all of the senior management in the process of that, I would
Based.
consider it. I would consider it.
Based.
It's
Based.
the
Eat the
biggest
rich.
the biggest problem with Unity right now is that they're owned by a literal malware company. So like they have nothing but
Yeah,
short-term
God.
profit in their mind. So I don't think that they're going to do that, but if they said if the shareholders came in and they're like fuck all you guys and kicked them all out and replaced them with people that actually knew what they're doing, I probably would stick with it in the short term and still just take maybe just a little bit more time to learn Godot before doing the full transition. But I want to learn Godot, so it'll probably happen one way or another. But that would delay my transition.
Delay it.
Yeah.
On the note of shareholders, by the way, did you guys know that allegedly, I haven't verified the info entirely myself, but supposedly the day before Unity's big announcement, a bunch of shareholders started dumping stock?
No way.
The CFO did and the CEO did.
Yeah,
No
they
fucking way.
They knew that their announcement that was coming up was going to plummet their stock value, so they dumped.
What
I think-
bitches, man? That's insane.
Yep.
I-
Yep.
I think the
insider trading.
CFO. Oh, sorry.
I'm fairly certain that qualifies as insider trading.
But don't you
does.
know that that's okay if you're rich?
Yeah, you can get away with
Of
it.
course. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
bad.
dude.
I'm sorry. I forgot the number one rule of capitalism.
Yep.
I think it depends on how much you made profit from it. I think the CFO made 100,000 in profit, which might not be enough because we're the poor plebs here, but they're the rich people. 100,000 is not a lot to them,
No,
so it
yeah.
might not be enough to reach the threshold of insider trading.
It might just be like they knew that they were, if it's the guy himself, the dude himself making the announcement and he wants to dump, like there could be some arguments made, perhaps depending on the amount that was gained. But the fact is, if anyone else dumped stock the day before alongside with those people, that is absolutely insider trading.
Yeah, it sounds to me, so long as they can just so long as they don't bring too much attention to it, they're probably going to get away with it.
Oh yeah.
You pretty much get away with it unless you start saying, "Hey guys, want to do some insider trading?"
Right, yeah.
Hey
you go
buddy.
to the company picnic and you're like, hey guys, just so you know, we have a bunch of shareholders here. All of you shareholders, in a week, we're going to do something really stupid.
Yeah,
You have 6 days to sell your stock.
We're gonna do an epic late epic meme, and we're gonna we're gonna do, and then he puts it all in capital letters: insider trading,
Insider trading.
and sell a bunch of stocks right before we make a dumbass fucking announcement.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've covered our topics. Thank you, Kunic and Will, for your inputs on this. Crow, I mean, it's just the two of us as the standard hosts here, but
Yeah.
do we want to roll for outro?
Yeah. What'd you roll? Get your D20 out.
D20. Get my D20. All right.
Oh wait, we
Ready?
didn't even say high or low this time.
Low, dude. Always low.
Okay, 8.
That is a 6.
Oh, looks like you're doing the outro.
I'm doing the outro. All right. Well, thank you guys for checking out the Definitely Not a Mimic podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials. Make sure to follow us on all
We're
of our
keeping that.
socials. Oh, absolutely. Which you can find in the description, and swing by next week for another episode. Thank you again to Kunic and Will for joining us. If you guys would like to say a fond farewell.
Oh, thank you much for letting me on this show. I had a great time talking with everyone, and hopefully I didn't say anything bad enough to not allow me back for a future episode.
Yeah, we're gonna kill you.
Yeah,
We will be muting all of your dialogue.
I figured that was coming.
Yeah, I'd like to
It
thank
happens.
you guys for coming onto my podcast. Clearly, this is mine. I think I have like 50% of the talking time today.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, Kunic,
thank
for letting
you.
us
Yeah.
join you.
it was great. It was great being on with you, Kunic. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll have
Yep.
you back next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, have us back next time, Kunic. Thank you, everybody. Round of applause for Kunic and his podcast.
Thank you. Woohoo.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. I have been Zill from the Twisted Pint Tavern,
I've been Jacob Crowe from the Crow's Perch.
and we will see you next time.
Outro song.
Outro song. This
Bye.
is the outro song.